You've spent your life doing what's expected, putting others first, ticking the boxes, holding it all together, even when something deep down feels off. But what if the shift you're craving isn't another productivity hack or to-do list trick? What if the real work and the real healing starts with connecting back to you? This is Women's Health Unwrapped. I'm Nicola Farndell, and in today's episode, we're diving into the power of spiritual connection, intuitive wisdom, and what it really means to come home to yourself. I'm joined by Anne-Louise Harbutt, intuitive spiritual channel and author of Insights from the Soul. Anne-Louise helps women who are tired of holding it all together reconnect with their purpose, their energy and their calm by tuning into something deeper, their intuition, their soul and the universe around them. We talk about what it means to truly honour yourself during perimenopause and beyond, the emotions that can surface when you finally ask yourself, what do I really want? And how spirituality can be a powerful anchor in a season of change. If you've been feeling disconnected, misaligned, or like you've lost sight of who you really are, this conversation might be exactly what you need. Hi, Anne-Louise, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's great to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to this topic because it's one I'm personally interested in. It's one that I know lots of women can benefit from, and it's something that we haven't really explored in this kind of way. I think we've touched on it in different conversations, but we've definitely not honed in like we're going to together today. So yeah, I'm excited for us to explore spirituality and your menopause journey and how it helped you. But just before we dive into all of that, I'd love to ask you right now, what would you say is the most impactful healthy habit you've got in your own toolkit?
So for me, it's my daily morning routine because it's how I start my day, and how you start your day has such an impact on the rest of your day. So I do an audio meditation. So I'll listen to something before I've even got out of bed. I will journal, do some gratitude journaling. And then I also have like a healthy smoothie in the morning to get my nutrients in. So before I've even sat at my desk, I've already done those things, and that sets me up for the day.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, when we're recording this, it's not very far into the new year, and I'm at the point where I must get back into my typical morning routine. I lost it in December when I had that horrible flu, and then obviously into the Christmas festive period when your routine just goes out of the window and so on. And then I've had a really busy start to the month so far. So yeah, you can feel the difference when you don't start off your day with intention, can't you?
Absolutely. And I know there are times when I've, like you, there's been times in the year when I've dropped the routine, because I think it's important not to give yourself a hard time when you do, because we're human and we sometimes we're really on top of looking after ourselves, and other times we get ill, or Christmas comes or something and we are feeling there's too much to juggle. But it does make a difference. I notice when I don't do it every day how it drops my energy levels and my mindset as well, and how I feel about myself, and that it just needs sometimes that reminder, doesn't it, just to go, okay, I'm going to start that up again.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you find though that it was something like you gradually built? You talked there about, that pressure we can all put on ourselves. And I think the morning routine is one lots of us will have heard about online and seen these so-called wellness gurus share, the 5 a.m. club and so on. Did you gradually find the rhythm that you've got now and adjust that so it really does fit into your life and day?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important that it does work for you. So my kids are grown up now, so they're sort of 19 and 21. So I have that luxury of being able to meditate and journal before I get out of bed. When they were little, that didn't happen because mummy duty came very early in the morning. So it is finding times that are right for you. So when they went to school, when they were little, I used to journal. I took them to school, and then I used to journal before I started my day after I'd done the school run. So it's trying to find the time and space that works for you. So this has happened over time, and I think it, like we said before, it's about being kind to yourself, because we've got so much pressure on ourselves, and we often, that is internal pressure, you know, we put it on ourselves, and I should be doing all these things, and society says, or the online space says, or the wellness space says I should be doing all this, and actually we're doing a lot already. So it's finding a routine that works for you, and if meditating every morning isn't possible for you, then once a week or twice a week, that at least you're doing something to calm your mind, to calm your nervous system, to connect in with yourself, and not to be hard on yourself if you're not doing it every day. I don't start at 5 a.m. That doesn't work for me. I have this intention of getting up early a lot of mornings, and it doesn't happen. But I do have the routine now of meditating, journaling. But as I say, I don't have little kids anymore, so it's very different when you do. So it's finding what works for you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of self-acceptance, I think, that comes with this, in terms of looking at your season of life, what you do have going on, you know, what your day routine, care and responsibilities look like. Work is obviously a big factor in that for many of us. And yeah, just accepting that maybe you might want a routine like what you've just described, but maybe right now your children are still younger and dependent, and you have very full on hectic mornings getting everybody up and ready and so on. And so there is a lot of acceptance. And I think what I find is that often is missing. And instead what happens is someone tells themselves, well, I can't do that, so what's the point? You know, I'll wait until I've got more time. I'll wait until the kids are older. I'll wait until I've got more money, or I'll wait until I know how to meditate. All of those limiting beliefs come into play, and somebody chooses to do nothing instead, because we are really inheriting this story that being healthy and well is about trying to do it all and doing it all perfectly and so on. And so that's such a great valid point to help people think about, you know, are you putting something off because you think your morning routine should look like XYZ, and actually maybe right now you can only have Y in there and that's enough, but you've held off on that. And I think just that acceptance of, you might want to have 7 healthy lunches a week, for example, but maybe now 3's manageable, and your goal is ultimately 7, but that could be some time away for whatever reason that might be. And something you touched on there as well, which leads us to what I want to chat with you about on spirituality, is you talked about like listening and or feeling what you need and connecting, you know, to look after yourself and that whole self-care bit. So yeah, how does that link into the work you do now to really use spirituality as a tool to help women live this full, vibrant life that we all deserve and want?
So one of the biggest things I work with clients on is prioritizing themselves. So a lot of my clients feel responsible for everyone and everything, and they have not put themselves first. It feels alien to put themselves first. It feels selfish to put themselves first. And actually, when you learn to know what you desire and you drop the should word, which is one of those words I wish we didn't have in the language, but we do, because if you start a sentence with I should, you are usually doing that for someone else or something else. So it might be because society says so, or your industry says so, or a parent said so. I should. If you really want to do something, you don't say I should. You say, I really want to do this. The should feels like it's for somebody else. So it's starting to prioritize themselves. And it's also finding that connection. So when we talk about spirituality, that's a connection to source, yes, to the universe, to something bigger than ourselves. But it's also about a connection with yourself. Because when you connect with what you want and what you desire and who you really are, because often I find that women particularly are very good at being who they feel they should be, or being what fits in and the roles that they play. And I'm not saying that we can't stop playing those roles, that they're still part of who we are, but it's actually taking that time out and saying, what do I want? What do I desire? And I remember the first coach that I ever worked with was in 2013. And I remember her saying, there was a group of us in this hotel saying, what do you really want? And you know what? I didn't know. I don't think I could remember the last time I actually said, what do I truly desire? I knew my nice to haves. I knew what I felt I should have, but I had not asked myself, what do I really want out of my life? And it was a real moment of, like, the pen was ready on the paper, but nothing, nothing was being written. And I think it's really important to just take that step back and have that moment of connection to what intuitively. So I do a lot around intuition and what that nudge and that hint and that desire. What do you want? And allowing yourself to daydream, allowing yourself just to go there, because your brain will immediately come in and say, about how's that going to happen? So we want to pause that for a moment and just be a bit childlike and be a bit playful and just go, actually, I'm just going to daydream. What do I really want? And then you can start looking at, okay, I can't have that particular thing right now. So you may be that you want to leave everything and travel around the world, and that's not possible in your life right now. But how can I bring more of that travel in? And then why do you want that thing? So if it was travel, for example, maybe it's because you want to feel free. So start with your emotions. How do you want to feel? And then allow yourself to be open to receiving opportunities that will make you feel that way. Because we often set goals because we think, if I have this, then I will feel that. And actually, if you start with the feeling, there may be many opportunities that you've not even thought of that make you feel that way, that are possible and are doable. So that's why we have a little daydream and have a little moment of, what do you really want to do and how do you really want to feel? And then start thinking about how that can happen for you.
Yeah, totally aligned with all of that. And I do a lot of that in my coaching work as well. And it's something that always triggers so much emotion, doesn't it? It can be really triggering for someone because, as you said, most of us haven't given ourselves space to think, to dream, to want something perhaps different to what we've got. And I think a lot of us, when we're given that space and opportunity, as you said, connect with yourself. And that can be really like strange and quite a difficult thing to know how to feel into that, isn't it? It's like we live these such busy lives and haven't been taught ever through school and then into adulthood and becoming young women and so on, to connect with ourselves and feel who we are and know our values and choose to live in alignment with those. It would just end up on this path by default for many of us, don't we? So yeah, when I've run, especially, I'm sure you've had the same sort of experiences, running groups where you might do this kind of exercise and get someone to visualize and talk them through it in a way you've just kind of done there, with imagining their life the way they would like, and why does that matter, and what does it feel like that can just trigger so much. And for a lot of women, when I've talked them through this, they just have this huge emotional outburst of, God, I've never allowed myself to go there. And it's not just the thing or things and way of life they've seen that becomes emotional for them. It's the fact that they've missed who they really are. Like, they've just not had that as part of their life. And that's just huge, isn't it? And so for yourself, was there a point when you realize that you weren't connected with who you really were? Obviously, you've got your wonderful book, Insights from the Soul. Like, was that at the beginning of this journey, or did that come later after you'd gone through this like evolution of self?
So there was a moment when the same coach that I was saying about writing the desires, and she made me realize that she said, turned around to me, she said, you don't love yourself. And I remember just crying like for 3 hours. It was like this emotion, this huge pouring of emotion came out. One, because I'd never even thought about loving myself. I mean, that wasn't even something that I had even thought of or ever contemplated. And I realized how disconnected I was from who. So the person the outside world saw was very confident and very sure of herself, probably a little bit overly sure. But inside, I didn't know who I was. I didn't love myself. I wasn't, my worth, my value were really low. All my validation and worth was coming from external factors. So whether my husband said, I love you, or my boss said you've done a good job, or wasn't so much. I mean, I know for some people it's money in the bank account. So worth and money can be very tied together. So I didn't have that so much, but it was still having that work salary, that kind of thing. All was all about my validation. And she made me realize that actually, without this feeling with yourself, this connection with yourself, you can have all of those things, the house, the car, the family, the job, and you won't feel worthy and you won't feel fulfilled. And I had always looked externally for that emotion and for that feeling. And what I learned through that experience was actually that feeling has to come from within. And when I started doing the work on myself and sort of had that 3 hour emotional release, because part of me was like, oh, who do I be now? Who am I going to be if I'm not this appearingly outwardly okay and confident and everybody would think I've got it all together? If I'm going to start showing the vulnerable, I'm really uncertain, I'm exhausted, I feel flat, I feel disconnected. Yes, to the outside world, I've ticked these boxes that society says will make you happy, but actually I'm not truly fulfilled and happy, and I just don't know why. And I think that point was like it opened up something. I connected to the universe. I found my spirituality. I felt like I'd come home. The more I learned about spirituality, the more I was like, this feels like something I want to learn more. I feel very connected. I learned that I could channel guidance and messages from the universe for my clients. I learned that I had this intuitive gift. So when clients are talking to me and they're telling me what they feel are the reasons for feeling how they feel when they want to change that, I will get certain responses in my body. And when they say a certain thing and I get that hit, and I'll say, right, that's what we need to explore. So it saves them time. They get to that point very, very quickly when they work with me. And discovering all of these things, I suddenly realized that the purpose and the impact that I wanted to have was really important, rather than, like you say, you said you turn around and you go, I'm in this role, this job, this relationship, and I'm just here. I don't even know who I am. And I've been in that place. And when I discovered who I really was, what I really wanted. I mean, you talked about meditation. Like, it took me forever to learn to quieten my mind. It was always busy. I was hoovering at 2 o'clock in the morning because it had to be done. And if I could avoid how I was feeling and keep myself busy, then that was how I was running my life. The busier I was, I had the busy badge of honor. Do you know how busy I am? Do you know how I'm doing all these things? And actually, it wasn't until I quietened my mind and stopped. And it was quite scary at first, because when we're left with your own thoughts and you're left with your own emotions, that's quite a vulnerable place to be when you're holding that mirror up. But it's the other side of that. And you can start rebuilding that sense of, okay, so who am I going to be? Who am I really? And start connecting with that. And that was that point really for me, was that I'm not going to carry on in my life without being true to who I am. But it was vulnerable, scary and emotional, but absolutely worth it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And what a journey you've been on to get to where you are now. And so let's dive into the spirituality piece of it, because I do really want to go there and bring some clarity to what it means, because I think a lot of people look upon it as woo. My husband's one of those people. He's like, oh, this stuff. If I'm going outside in a full moon to burn a piece of paper, he's like, oh no, here she goes again. You've definitely got those kind of people. And I think there's, uh, uh, um, that's something that, is okay. And it's quite, I think, misunderstood. So let's bring some, I think, explanation to what you mean. You've mentioned like the universe and source, and so just I guess talk me through all of that and how you would pitch it to someone to say, this is what it is, and this is how it can positively impact you and the way you feel and live.
Yeah, I mean, my husband was the same in the beginning. Like we've been together 20 odd years. And when he met me, I was play hard, work hard London girl in corporate. So and he would say woo as well. He would say this woo person, like it's not the person that he
Weird.
met, appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to know, like, spirituality covers such a broad spectrum of modalities and experiences, and it's different for different people. And I think you feel a connection that there is something either more for you. So my clients often feel this, and I had the same. There's more for me. I don't know what it is, but I have this feeling and knowing that there's more I'm meant to be doing. And there is this sense that there is something greater than ourselves. And the sense of being able to be comforted by that, to feel in alignment with who you are, to like think about what you focus on. So what you focus on, you get more of. So my father, for example, is not he's religious, like they go to church, but he's not what he would class as spiritual or woo. But every time he goes into a car park, he says, I'm going to have a space outside the front door. That's what I'm going to have. And 9 times out of 10 there is a space outside the front door. So it's that, if you think you can, and if you think you can't, you're always right. It's that, what are you going to focus on? And it's not necessarily, if you think about being spiritual, and I understand that turns a lot of people off, is that there's that sense of, you can choose to think you're going to have a good life, or you can choose to think everything's going to go against you. You can choose to think that life is happening for me or to me. And for me, it wasn't about becoming this really spiritual person. Like, I'm very grounded. I'm a mum of 2. I run a business. I run a home. I don't sit with my meditating for 48 hours of my week. I don't, I'm living what I would call a grounded human experience. I just happen to feel very expansive and lit up when I think about my connection to source, to the universe, to myself. And if I can create a better life for me and my family by having that focus and attention on, yes, things happen. It's not, like I say, I always say, it's not unicorns and rainbows. Like, I'm not looking for that kind of life. Life happens, things happen, kids happen. Like, there's things going on in my life right now that are not very pleasant experiences, but I get to choose whether I go, okay, I'm going to be in this experience and thinking it's going to be really bad and it's going to go get worse, or I can focus on the result and the outcome that I want and put my focus and my energy into that. So it's not easy, because reality is obviously very real by the sheer fact it's our reality. But if we want to change our reality, we want to be focusing on the thing we want. That's why we talked about daydreaming at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
When you're daydreaming, you're in the space of that thing happening. And when you think about being fun and playful and daydreaming in that kid-like way, it takes that pressure off, because you're just, say, relaxing, waking up in the morning thinking about it, or just before you go to sleep, and your energy and your focus is on this vision that you want to bring in. So rather than it being maybe about being spiritual or not spiritual, is, if you're not happy with where you're at and how you're feeling right now, why don't you be a bit playful and have a focus on how you want to feel and where you want to be? And then you'll find that opportunities will come to you, and synchronicities, and the universe starts opening up opportunities, understanding that we're still living a human experience. and we will still feel those emotions. I think sometimes in spirituality there's this, oh well, if I'm woo then I shall feel always happy and calm, and but that's just not life. That's, you know, we are human, and I have days when I want to sit and have a little cry, and I have days when I feel so connected to source, I feel so expansive. I've had like this morning I had an amazing message from a client who's I record energy activations for clients so they can listen to them daily. And she's committed to hers, like I say, at least 21 days. She's on day 100. And she said, I feel so fabulous and so amazing. And that lights me up like never before. And I have those days too. But I would love more clients like that. I want more clients to feel that fabulous. So let me focus on that for a moment. Let me just close my eyes for 2 minutes and listen to that message again a few times, so that I'm having that energy and focus on somebody's feeling fabulous because they've shifted their energy. It's that kind of celebrating those moments, and just taking those few minutes to focus on where you want to get to rather than where you're at, understanding that where you're at is very real and you can feel those emotions too, because that's
Yeah.
part of the experience.
I think that emphasis you've kept putting on, we are humans, we are going through this human experience. The world isn't a great place. There's lots of things happening right now that could be, you know, things that question why we're here and what's going on, and so on and so on. And I feel like because of that, now more than ever, lots of people are looking towards something that is going to help them find alignment, peace, comfort, community, all of those kinds of things. And we are seeing that uplift in religion, which is unusual, especially here in the UK, you know, where people just feel like they want to be part of something. And as you said, spirituality is this kind of huge spectrum, and there's lots of different ways that you can be a spiritual person. I feel like I've always been a spiritual person. I used to attend church when I was young. My family weren't religious at all, but I fell into Brownies guides, really liked going to church, and got confirmed as a teenager. And then, of course, teen years brought better things along. But I used to go to a spiritual church as I got a little bit older. You know, I've always been just interested in things like why we dream and what our dreams mean, and afterlife, and you know, connecting with yourself and listening to your soul and all of those things. So I love now that the world we're in, especially in this wellness space, just offers so many different ways to find a way to connect with yourself. And for women in midlife especially, I feel like this is something that can be so relevant and appropriate when you are struggling with all of the different shifts our hormonal changes through perimenopause and menopause can bring. And this was something that you experienced yourself, didn't you, Anne-Louise, when you began to really struggle with menopause? And I know you'd shared with me that you were even struggling to get out of bed and function through the day. And you had these tools already at that point. And so how did you then use your spirituality and the tools you'd started to build to move forward and come back to thriving rather than basically just surviving as you'd, you know, experienced at the time?
Yeah, it was hard, and it was a surprise. I think I mean, my hormones have always been a little bit crazy throughout my whole life, but I wasn't expecting to have something that was so all consuming. So I think when I hit that, perimenopause sort of was very slow, took a long time to come, but was quite slow. So I had different supplements and things. And then suddenly for about 18 months, I think it probably started probably a couple of years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, I just felt exhausted. Like you said, I didn't want to get out of bed. I went from being chatty, wanting to socialize with people, to I don't want to go out anywhere. I don't want to get out of bed sometimes. No energy, no enthusiasm for my business, for life. And it was all consuming. And I hadn't ever experienced that before. I've had bad days. I've had bad hormonal days. But this was like a cloud I felt over me. And I think I really doubled down on the meditation and the journaling. And my focus was on the other side of this. So I put my energy and focus, and one of my affirmations or my phrases is, the other side of this is going to be amazing, because I wanted to focus my energy outside the other side. And when I have tough times, I certainly do that. But tough times, sometimes well, I've had tough years, but this particularly felt all consuming for 18 months. And it felt like there wasn't anything I could do to shift it. And I wasn't sleeping very well, which is a common menopausal symptom. So you know what it's like, if you don't sleep, then life just feels so hard. So I think for me, the spirituality side was the thing that kept me grounded and connected to something that didn't have any feeling of those human feelings. Obviously, menopause is very much a human bodily feeling, whereas my spirituality is very expansive and I feel energized. So even in the times, although my physical body didn't feel great, connecting to that spirituality and connecting to this knowing that I had, which was, well, two knowings. One was there was going to be another side to it. I did know that I was going to move through it, and I kept holding on to that. And the second thing was that I read a book by Dr. Christian Northrup, I think, and I can't remember the title right now, but it's about, I think she's written quite a lot of books on menopause. And her view is that we get to that point in our life where the universe makes us look at things that we haven't, like we need to address or move through in order to step into that part of our lives where we're going to be even more vibrant and even more goddess-like and even more amazing. But there's some things we need to clear and work on. And some of the things that came up during that 18 months were very old patterns and beliefs around my own worth and value, things I thought I'd worked on, like in the times we talked about earlier, but needed just readdressing. So it was like, this is a time for me to hibernate, I suppose, in a way. Although I was still, my daughter had gone to university, I was still my son, I still was a mum, and I still had my business and clients, so I did that. But in the other times I was more hibernating away, focusing on myself and looking at some of those things and emotions that time in my life gave me. And the spirituality side, as I say, was just that connection to myself and to source, which is, there's something bigger and greater than this, and I will come out the other side. But it's not pleasant at all.
And how are you feeling now? Do you feel like you are on that other side? Have you really seen a shift in how healthy and well you feel?
Yes, much, much better. For me, it didn't suddenly stop one day. I didn't wake up one morning and go, "Oh, it's gone. It's past. It's fine." I had like a couple of days when I go, "Oh my God, I actually feel myself again," and I was like, "This is amazing." And then I'd go back in to feeling not myself for a few days, and then I'd have 2 days feeling myself, and then back, and then eventually I kind of came out the other side. And I still sometimes feel tired, of course. I still sometimes feel, if I haven't slept well or my hormones are a bit funny, it hasn't stopped, but I feel grounded. I feel peace was a word you said, which is a really good way, I think, to think about spirituality. It brings peace to yourself, and I feel very at peace about where I am, like physically and emotionally and mentally and spiritually. And I just don't ever have those really dark days, like those I don't have control of what's happening to me days. I still have days when as I said earlier, we're having a human experience, and I still have days when I think I'm going to have a little cry because this is happening right now, because that's what I'm experiencing. But I don't have that sense of, I don't want to go out and I don't want to get out of bed and I don't want to see anybody anymore. So, but I think it's very hard when you're in it. And I know that I'm, compared with a lot of women that I've spoken to, I was very lucky not to experience a lot of the symptoms, but it does feel like it's very drawn out and goes on for a very long time. So I think it's really focusing on, if you can focus on, there will be another side to this, and that there is another chapter of your life coming, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you've described there, Anne-Louise, is taking control of your menopause, the changes in your hormones and health. And that's the big thing that I'm trying to empower women to do, because we talked at the start about all of the shoulds, the beliefs we have that, oh, I must do this, I must be the one caring for this, I should do that. And often that's all towards other people, it's external and so on. And when we do start to transition through perimenopause, it's that time in our life where, for many of us, we can't keep doing all of that because our own body and mind is going through a significant remodeling and needs us to focus on ourselves. And the biggest thing is to stay, or challenge is when you stay stuck in that firefighter mode of the shoulds, the musts, beating yourself up, not feeling good enough, all of the negative spiral that many women struggle with. That can then make those changes even more difficult. And because you are possibly not on the higher end of the scale of well-being to start with, you can then experience more symptoms and more debilitating levels of those symptoms as well. Whereas when you take control, as you say, it doesn't magically disappear, but the empowerment is the kind of that starting point that is the beginning of the positive upward spiral, because you are like, okay, I know that this isn't easy, and I know that I am changing, and I know that some days are not going to feel great, and I know that this might be years, but I am going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And that doesn't happen overnight. It's looking and learning what to do and what might be helpful for you and what you want and all of that. And then it just all comes together and just creates this incredible ripple effect, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's like you said, it's those small steps. I think is that anything that you do to make yourself feel better, or that you focus on, or that you change maybe your mindset. So one of the things I had to change was my inner voice. So she's just nasty. Like, I always call her the inner bitch. We can be so hard on ourselves and so cruel. And that voice was just constant. Like, everything I did was never enough. And when you're focusing, so like we said, what you focus on, you get more of. So if you're always focusing on the you're never enough, or it's not good enough, then you're kind of in that loop of believing that you're not worthy and you're not valuable and nothing you do is good enough. You're giving yourself a hard time. And if you think about, I always think about how you teach a child to ride a bike. If you spent the whole time saying, you're never going to get this, you're not good enough, and every time they fall off, you say, see, I told you how rubbish you are, they're going to go running into the house crying. If what you don't, you say, you've got this, come on, pick yourself up, get back on, I've got the saddle, I'm holding you, you can do this. And then when they start pedaling that little bit, you go, yeah, you've got it. And there's all this encouragement and love and support. And guess what? They learn how to ride a bike. So if you imagine that voice is constantly putting you down and telling you you're not good enough, which mine did for years, decades, then no wonder you're not feeling how you want to feel and you're not living the life you want to live. So it's changing that voice to something a little bit kinder. So when that harshness comes in, and it doesn't, well, in my experience, it doesn't flip 180 degrees overnight. If you've been talking badly to yourself for 20, 30 years, then you're not going to suddenly wake up one day and go, I'm going to be really kind to myself. But you can, when that voice comes in that's harsh, and I still have, moments, mine, like it says idiot, if I do something that's human, not like Superwoman, it goes idiot, like instantly. And I go, no, I'm not an idiot. I'm just being human. And you can just have that moment of going, no, I'm not going to listen. You've given me a hard time for long enough. I'm just not available for that anymore, because that has such an impact on how we feel about ourselves. And if we're already, like you say, all the pressures that you were talking about, and we're doing all those things that we haven't, not feeling great about ourselves, that voice can change, can really change your relationship with yourself and how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when your episode's out, there will have just been an episode where we actually dive into this self-talk and the importance of the words that you say to yourself. And it's just that example you shared of the child learning to ride a bike. Like, if we thought about that and what you said, about speaking to the child in the way we would speak to ourselves, and somebody heard us doing that, like, everybody would be appalled and shocked. We'd be an absolute monstrous parent, a bitch of a mother, but yet we think it's all right to speak that way to ourselves. pretty much 24/7, and yet we don't comprehend the damage that that's doing, the impact it has. And as you've been sharing, what we are putting in as energy is what comes out, and that's why in my model mindset sits in the middle of the 5 pillars of wellness that I have, because that is such a crucial and very, very missed piece of us being healthy and well. You can eat all of the vegetables, fruit, nuts, seeds that you want, but if up here you're talking to yourself like an absolute bitch, and not supporting yourself and always putting yourself down and telling yourself you're not good enough, you're never really going to feel healthy and well. And what damage is that doing to the internal system from a physiological point of view as well? So we have to bring it all together, and I love that you've brought this up as part of what you're all about. So to kind of wrap us up, I'd love to ask you for some advice for that midlife woman who's listening, who maybe is in the midst of struggling with menopause changes, or perhaps doesn't have significant symptoms as such, but is thinking, yeah, I want more. That second half of life needs to be different. I don't know what that exactly looks like, but I know that there's got to be more for me before I reach the final page. Like, how would you use your spirituality tools and modalities to guide someone with just like those 3 simple steps to get started?
So that feeling that you said, like, I know there's more for me, that is there for a reason. Like, if you feel that, then follow it. Like, really explore what would that more mean. And that's talking about those emotions. So one thing that I do with my clients is to say, think of 5 emotions, how you want to feel. So for this year, how do you want to feel in 2026? Yeah. Write those 5 emotions down. So I have them in front of me. I have mine here. Mine are love and fun, purpose, impact, abundance, and happiness and joy. I sort of keep together. So I have my emotions. Then every time you make a decision this year, is that decision, that choice, that investment, that event, whatever you're deciding about, is it going to make you feel one or more of those ways you want to feel? So think about your emotions, think about your desires when you're following that. I want more. Yeah, but what do you want more of? Like, you know you're here for more, but what does that look like? And there's if you think about what's your version of that success, we say about version of success, like, what's your version of success? What's your version of a life that you want? Not what everyone else is doing, not what you feel you should do, but actually, what is it for you? Because it will be different from everyone else. It should be different from everyone else, because what lights you up and makes you feel amazing is going to be different from other people. Think about what you say first thing in the morning to yourself, because that sets you up for the day. Like we said, that first voice. So mine was always, I'm so tired. I used to wake up, the first thing I used to say to myself every morning was, I'm so tired. And guess what? I felt tired for the rest of the day. So I flipped that. I was tired. My kids were little. I was tired. And I just went, I've got enough energy for today. So I flipped that and I started every day going, I have enough energy for today. I don't know about tomorrow. I don't know about next week, but for today, I have enough energy. And then the third thing is listen to your intuition. Like, trust that gut feeling, trust that what is right for you, that feeling. If you feel excited about something, there's a reason for that. That excitement is there for a reason. That's your soul, your intuition saying, give this a go, girl, because this is going to be good for you. That excitement, that thing, follow that.
Yeah, I love those tips. Thank you. They're really good. And the second one with flipping that morning thought, I was laughing. If you're not watching on video, I was laughing and pointing to me, because that was me as well. And I still sometimes fall into that, especially over the past few weeks when I haven't been so well. But I loved how you gave that example of the way you would flip that, because I think there's a tendency for people to think this is like toxic positivity. It's just like, oh, stick a plaster on it. If I say, oh, I love me, then I'm going to love me. Like, we have to feel into this, and we've got to be realistic. And I know I had this conversation with a client recently where we were talking about how she could start to think more positively about the health journey she's on, and that this isn't about saying, I am healthy and well, because if you don't feel that, then that isn't going to connect with you, and it's not going to have the positive effect and change you want. Whereas if you say, I am investing in my health, or I am on a journey to build strong health, that's the truth. Maybe right now you aren't where you want to be and you don't feel you're particularly healthy and well. Like what you shared, you aren't really bursting with energy and you are actually tired, but you're changing it into something that is true, that you have the energy to have a great day, or you have the energy to feel how you want to feel that day, and it's enough. Like, so it's just those small little changes that can sound really insignificant, but they all add up together to really make a big difference, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that, as you say, what we're saying to ourselves, and we said about the small steps. I think there is this when you're feeling low, whether it's physically or mentally or emotionally or with your hormones, it can feel such an uphill to get anywhere feeling normal. It can feel like you're right in ditches of it all, and you just haven't got the energy to even like get your head off the pillow, let alone, be positive with these affirmations. So I think it is that, as you say, those small things. If I can just say something kind to myself today, if I can just do something that's a little bit more than yesterday, and get that momentum and start feeling that you're doing something to support yourself. And that thing can be lying, if you're like lying on the sofa, or lying because you haven't got the energy, but you let your mind go to that daydream or that emotion or that vision that you'd like to create. That's, you've made a positive difference, and it doesn't have to be a big physical thing. It doesn't have to be you've ticked six things off your to-do list, or you've done something amazing. It can be simply that you flipped a thought, or you did a bit of visioning, or maybe you did a little meditation. Like, it's just these small things, like you said, they do add up and they do make a difference.
And I always emphasize celebrating that you have done this, as you said, you've taken those few minutes to dream and create that vision, then acknowledge that, because that will also add some positive impact to how you feel, knowing that you're taking that time for yourself and you're moving towards where you want to be. So it all just kind of adds and gains that momentum. So if you want to let people know where they can find you, that would be great. I mentioned your book. Yeah, where can they get the book? And I'll obviously put all of the links into the show notes as well.
Amazing, thank you. So the book is on Amazon. So it's called Insights from the Soul. It's gentle conversations with your inner self. So that's about prioritizing yourself. It's got some of my personal stories in it. It's about changing that inner voice. You can find me on my website, which is Anne-Louise.Harbutt.com. I'm on Instagram at I am Anne-Louise Harbutt, and I'm also on LinkedIn as well under Anne-Louise. So I'm very easy to find on the socials.
Brilliant. And your book just sounds gorgeous as well. Maybe that's
thank you,
a
darling.
next step that someone listening can take and gift yourself that. Is it on audio as well?
Not yet. It will be. That's one of my plans for this year, is to do it on Audible. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant, because we all know we'll have a minimum amount of time, don't we? But that might be something you can, start to build a habit around, a couple of pages each evening before bed. Nice little way to create a bedtime routine. So thank you so much, Anne-Louise. I've loved the conversation, and I really know that this is going to change people's opinions. This isn't about being all woo and floating around in a forest somewhere with nothing on your feet. Spirituality it's real, it's practical, and as always, it's about finding what is going to work for you. But that comes when you know who you are and what you want and how you want to live and feel. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's been amazing. I've loved it. Thank you.
You're welcome. If this episode stirred something in you, a curiosity, a tug, a sense that there's more for you than just pushing through, please don't ignore it, because that quiet pull, that's often your intuition speaking. And you heard Anne-Louise tell you how important that is. Learning to listen and really trust your intuition can change everything. Spiritual alignment isn't a luxury, it's a foundation. It brings clarity, confidence, calm, control, as you heard in Anne-Louise's story as well. And in midlife, it can be the difference between simply getting through and actually living. Now, if you're ready to explore what's really going on behind the fatigue, the frustration, or that sense of disconnection, my Midlife Reset Quiz is a great place to start. It's completely free, takes just a few minutes, and it will help you uncover where your energy is going and what small shifts you could make to bring you back to yourself. You'll find the link for the Midlife Reset quiz in the show notes. And if you know someone who's been feeling lost, someone who's forgotten how to tune into their own voice, please share this episode with her. You never know the impact one conversation can have. Thank you, as always, for listening. If you're new to the podcast, I really hope you've enjoyed this first episode. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen and, of course, choosing to reconnect with you. I'll see you in the next episode.